Here we go, raising the flag, time lapse. So this is where you're going to be able to see me actually working on my piece. I do the light pencil outline, and then I start little by little adding the color. I'm working on my list, and this kind of shows you right here of me at the table. And as I'm going off my list, I'm starting to knock things off, crossing off the pictures, words, and messages. And so the beginning ones, I always take pictures. Here you can kind of see where the piece is starting to develop and getting more into the flag. I've done the bottom part, and now you'll actually see me start drawing. So this is a silver pen. This is a little trickier than most of the pens I use because it actually smears a lot easier. Right here, I've already written out a lot of the words, so I had my baseline, kind of what we were doing, where I have my words, I have the hidden details. Right now I'm boxing out all the areas now for my next pattern. And so this is obviously sped up a little bit, just to kind of make it go a little quicker so you can kind of see, but gives you an idea on how I have and how I'm working around each of these lines. All these lines have a lot of meaning to them, so you got to be very careful on where I'm going. Now that I kind of boxed it all out, I'm going to start working on my pattern, going across the section here, kind of what we were working on. And you'll see that paper underneath where my hand is. That is so it doesn't smear, and I'm not smearing all over. It will help soak up all of those pen drops, or those, I call them hot spots on the paper. And I'm always moving. The time lapse, when I do time lapse, it's tricky because I move the paper so much because I need to make sure that I have the perfect line. So you're going to see it almost is a little bit dizzying, if that's even a word, but it's dizzy watching this just because the paper is always moving. I can't really do a time lapse and keep the paper perfectly straight, especially with this amount of detail and how I need to get the perfect line. So you'll see right here, here's where, I'm finishing off. And even right here, that pen, I have to go over it 2 to 3 times sometimes just because it's not going down that first time. So a lot of these lines actually almost double up those pen strokes, especially if I'm going over a pencil line. So right there, you can see that I'm testing out the pen just to make sure it's still working. So there's a lot of things I have to be careful when I'm doing pen and ink, because I know that was my last silver in that pen, so I had to make sure it worked. Now, even right here, this is my signature. I even have to plan out my signature. People always ask how much am I planning? Well, I'm planning out a lot because I'm working on this little area right here, which is one of the flag stripes. I have to make sure I get my signature in there because if I just do it fast, there's a good chance I would get outside that box. These lines, these are pencil lines of where you are not forgotten, part of the POW in the background. So those, if I ever see pencil lines, you'll see them on the left there. Those are part of the bigger thing. Now, the support our troops, words and smaller pictures, I can free flow that. I could just throw that in there, working off my list. But there are a lot of things that are planned, and then there's a lot of things that are free flowing, in order to kind of get to all these hidden details inside of it. So you got to kind of see what works for you. I try to go straight to pen as quick as I can, but yes, I do need some light pencil outlining, a base to know where I'm going, what I'm doing, because there's so many different ways you can make mistakes, especially using these pens. And so the pencil really helps me, even just as basic as my signature, knowing, okay, hey, my signature could fit right here. I'm going to do a light pencil outline, and I'm going to come back and go over it. And now all this is, where I'm doing the fill, working on the patterns. This pattern is pretty easy to watch because it's just going down on, it's not doing a lot of movement. I'll hit it from this side, and then I'm going to turn it here, and then you're going to see that I'm going to go down on the other side here. So I'm always trying to use different patterns for what the space is. but kind of gives you a good idea on even something with this first stripe here. You're going to see, or there's where I finished, and now you're going to see it full, and kind of sped it up a little bit so you don't have to watch all this, but I'm knocking out each one little by little. And here's part of the M from the POW going across the whole thing. So I always have a big main image, and that's the big POW flag, since this is for all the veterans and everyone serving in the military. So what's kind of cool in this section here is I'm actually writing out the whole Pledge of Allegiance. And this is where I get into trouble, is my biggest mistakes are spelling errors. And we actually caught this mistake right here where you're going to see it. But we caught one, and I'm going to show you how I actually cover it up, because a lot of people do also ask, how do I fix a mistake? And as I'm writing out the Pledge of Allegiance, I have the words right there, but it's so easy to misspell a word. And so right here where we come up on and to the Republic, as I'm writing it out right here where it froze, I realized I misspelled it. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to keep going, or am I going to stop? Am I going to cut my losses? And once I did the double B, I was like, all right, I need to cut this out. This is where that's where my mistake is. I'm going to drop it down to the next one, rewrite Republic down here, and then, keep going. So on that top part right there where you just saw where we froze it, I'm going to have to go fix that without using, white out, using any way to cover it up. So you have to be able to be flexible a little bit. And this is where, if you're rushing it, this is where the mistakes happen. So I wrote REBUB. So now I'm going to have to fix that section. So over here, we're working on, another pattern of, starting down. This is where it was good, but, doing the same thing, blocking it all out, keeping those lines safe, so that when I come in here now and am working on this pattern, we're going to be able to, see that I pledge, and then the Republic 4, and then, it's pretty much rinse and repeat from this point. So, as I'm getting done with this last strip, so here's where we're going to fix this. So I'm going to box this out. I'm going to box this whole area out where I'm going to make a pattern to go around. I wanted to do this right away, just so I didn't forget about it, but we have it all on film here where I'm going to show you how it I make it disappear. So once I have that area boxed out, now instead of boxing out the REBUB, I'm going to actually create that as part of the pattern. So I'm going to do this line, and then you're going to see coming up here where the line actually goes right up into the B right there and right there. So I've actually used part of the B's lines to be a part of this pattern, and this squiggly line to kind of this wave line to kind of go right along there. Now this is where it's going to get hidden, and you're not going to be able to see it. So this is a pattern that I knew right away, okay, I'll be able to hide this in there. So every mistake is going to be a little bit different, and as you see, it just blends in to the background. So I should have stopped at the RB, and I added a couple more letters, which makes it a little more difficult, but I thought maybe there was a way I could fix it, and I realized, like, no, I need to cut my losses now. And as you see, it has disappeared. And then I'll do a different one, different pattern down here, just to kind of break it up a little bit. So that was actually really exciting to see how, to show you guys how that happens. And then there's always my finish date in every piece. So this is, as I'm getting down to the last section, here's where I hid my finish date. I always kind of do it typically on a straight line, where I find somewhere that I can make this pattern with the date right along a perfectly straight edge. I just figured it's easier. I used to do them always around the border on the outside, but people were finding it a lot easier. So I always try to hide them in different spots. And as you can see, so 01/29/24 was when this piece was finished. And this was about, about 45-hour piece. A lot of negative space saves time. Colors do add time. If this was completely solid with these lines, those stripes, it would be easily a 60-hour piece. And this is always my favorite part. Well, when I'm drawing, getting onto that last pattern. This is the final hoorah. This is the exciting when I'm getting there. All this hard work is finally coming to an end, and this is where we are able to capture the last pattern inside of the Battlefield Cross. So yes, I do want to say thank you to all of our military. I am licensed with the military branches. I have a lot of exciting pieces coming out. I have the Freedom Isn't Free one that I did, over 15 years ago. So this is kind of the newer one, especially with all of our veterans. You got the POW flag. We have that gold star in this piece on the top left for the Gold Star families, who have been lost in battle. And this is my way, just showing my support. I always wanted to be in the military. I never could due to my back surgeries and some other things. But here is the last one, the last pattern. I hit it up in the middle. You'll see I connect them just to break it up a little bit more. And man, that's a good feeling when it's done, and I love that. That's what I chase that every time. I can't wait for that last pattern. All this time, it is all done, and these are the pens I use. So I use a lot of different brands, at least 10 different brands, and that is my final piece, raising the flag. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of this. I really appreciate the support. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Get out there, doodle. Don't be scared to try new things, and I will hopefully see you guys soon.